Now, for more on this, I am joined by Professor Thabiso Matshaba from the College of Law at the University of South Africa. Professor, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Finally, justice has been served for the victims and their family members as well. But as we also heard there, with some of them saying that, of course, the trauma still persists. But having such a hefty sentence handed down, do you think this then puts a clear message for those who are perpetrators of such gruesome crimes?
Good evening, Masa, and good evening to your listeners. Firstly, we need to consider the issue of the purpose of sentence. When you sentence a perpetrator, you are looking at an individual or general deterrence. An individual deterrence purpose is to prevent an offender to further commit crime. And general deterrence is to teach the community that if one will commit such a crime in future, will receive the very similar sentence. So this sentence is a first sentence taking into account of the deeds that the perpetrator has done. For the 2 life sentences and the 791 years and 6 months imprisonment, it is equally to the crime that Nkosinathi Phakathi has committed. So I will agree with the sentence because the sentence must fit the crime committed.
Also, when we consider in a country like ours where GBV is rife as well, and many of the times the perpetrators, it seems, are getting a slap on the wrist if they are even being caught in the first place. This particular individual, Phakathi, was on the spree for many years, and he was able to continue with this reign of terror. What does it also speak to about the ability to nip such crimes in the bud when they do start, before it becomes a mushrooming problem where now there are 90 counts of rape?
Firstly, let us look at the mind of the rapist. Because my understanding when I look at this case is that the perpetrator was arrested in 2021, and as he was serving a sentence. But before I can answer you, let us look at the mind of a rapist. Most of the time, the rapists have power. They've got this willingness of power and control. In other ways, they seek to exert power and control over their victims. And the other issue is the lack of empathy. There's no way that an ordinary person can be able to rape this large number of females, including school kids. So in most cases, they don't have empathy. They often view their victims as objects rather than people with feelings. That is why you continue doing it over and over again. And the other issue is the psychological issues. In this case, there was a psychological assessment that has been done on Nkosinathi, and most of the psychologists, they did not find anything. That is why they recommend the issue of imprisonment. So we cannot say that he was psychologically disturbed or something happened before. And the other aspect is the substance abuse. Something like alcohol and drugs might be the influence, but in most cases, it happens on the first time. The person will rape only the first person if he was under the influence of alcohol and drugs. In this case, we cannot link alcohol or substance abuse. So I think that the sentence as indicated is equal to the punishment. And the other most important aspect, we have to applaud the National Prosecution Authority and the South African Police Services to make sure that this man is arrested. I believe that if he was not arrested, he was still going to continue with this act or deed.
Speaking, Professor, about looking at the psyche of this kind of person, particularly a rapist as well, you say they view their victims as objects and not as humans. Also, the social worker during the trial had mentioned, over and over how his family spoke of him so lovingly, that he's a loving son, he's a loving father, he's a loving and caring to his family. So he sees his family as human, but not beyond that. What role does family also have to play in creating an enabling environment for such behavior?
I think in this case, what family need to do is to support the offender. They need to show that support so that he can be able to cope with the sentence. But it is unfortunately based on the length of the sentence, there is a possibility that they will never see him again. But what I can say to the family is to provide support. But justice has been done in this case.